on page 28b, and we have been learning about the formation of the Shemona Esrei and the laws pertaining to if there's any leniency of not reciting the full 18 brachas. And the Mishnah that we learned mentioned two opinions. We have mentioned three opinions really. It has Rabbi Gamliel, who says you need to recite all 18 brachas. Rabbi Yeshua said Me'ein Yurches, which the Gemara will really explain. And I mentioned yesterday what some of the different opinions of it are, but it's basically a abridged version of the Shemona Esrei of the 18 brachas. And Rabbi Akiva says that it really depends if you're fluent in the 18 brachas or not. The Mishnah continues and says that another statement that's a little vague, that if a person considers his prayer, makes his prayer keva, some type of automated prayer, it is not tachnunim, it is not supplicative. And Rabbi Yeshua says that there's also a special prayer if a person is in a place where it's a sakana, it's dangerous. So there's a more abridged version as well. So number one, Rabbi Yeshua says you don't need to recite all 18 brachas in the first place. And number two, he says that when it's a sakana, when it's a danger, there's even a more abridged version than his regular abridged version. And the Mishnah mentioned, like a two-line prayer. And then the Mishnah spoke about if a person was riding on a donkey and would he have to go down to daven, or could he actually daven Shemona Esrei on the donkey? And this would apply today.
Rabbi, can you please mute?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. What was what I said until now audible? Could you hear it, or was it too messed up? It was good. It was okay. All right. Otherwise, I'll repeat it. The end part of the Mishnah tells us that if you can't get down from the donkey, then you would be allowed to recite the Shemona Esrei while you're on top of the donkey, which means you're not standing, but you should have in mind you should direct your mind to your head towards your face towards the Beis Hamikdash, and if you can't do that, then just have in mind towards the Beis Hamikdash, towards the Holy of Holies in the Beis Hamikdash. And then the Mishnah concluded with you're in a boat or a asta, and asta, we said the simple translation is a raft. The other translation was you're in some type of prison, but I saw in one of the commentaries it says it means with shackles on one's feet, which means they can't even move their feet to turn. So it says in such a scenario, you have in mind towards the Beis Hamikdash, the Kodesh HaKadosh, and the Holy of Holies. So that was the Mishnah that we learned. And then the Gemara mentioned about the 18 brachas. Who does the 18 brachas correspond to? And the Gemara said that the 18 brachas correspond to different opinions. One is it corresponds to the 18 mentions of Hashem's name in the Psalm 29. And Rabbi Yosef says it corresponds to the 18 mentions of Hashem's name in the Shema. Now, when we mention the 18 mentions of Hashem's name in the Tehillim, we're really concentrating on the name Yud Kei Vav Kei. When we're talking about the Shema, we're talking about both names. I need to get the door. I'll be back in 1 second. Okay, sorry about that. So the Gemara is telling us that there's 18 mentions of Hashem's name in this Psalm 29. Psalm 29 is the psalm that we recite on Kabbalah Shabbos, and it's the Mizmor. It's not coming to my mind, but it's Kol Hashem ala Kela Kavod Hirim Hashem al Mayim Rabim Kol Hashem B'Koyach Kol Hashem B'Hodar. All the koilos mentions all the Mizmor LaDavid. Havel Hashem B'nei Elim. That's it. Mizmor LaDavid. Havel Hashem B'nei Elim. Havel Hashem Kavod B'Oz. Havel Hashem Kavod Shemai. That's the Psalm 29. So that Psalm is the in that Psalm it says Hashem's name 18 times. So I saw in the commentaries they mentioned that the uniqueness of that psalm is that it's a psalm that's similar to prayer, and if we're trying to understand the blessings of the Shemoneh Esrei, so and the reason why we have 18 brachas in the Shemoneh Esrei, so the connection is that, well, this is from the Maharsha. He says that the name Yud-Kei Vav-Kei is the name of Rachamim. It's God's name of mercy. And the blessings in the Shemoneh Esrei are all about asking Hashem for have compassion and mercy on us. And therefore, we're going to, that psalm, we're going to concentrate on the name of Hashem. That's Yud Kei Vav Kei, that's connected to mercy. And he also mentions that when we will speak later about the 7 blessings of Shabbos, they are corresponding to the word koil, the voice, because the voice symbolizes the praise of Hashem. And Shabbos, Shemoneh Esrei, is mainly praise. It's not requesting our needs. It's all about praise. So what comes out from this is that there is deep meaning behind the Shemoneh Esrei. And the rabbis had many Kabbalistic ideas and understandings before they established the Shemoneh Esrei. And on a simple level, we're sort of getting little tidbits of that. And one of the tidbits is that this Psalm 29, is very connected to the prayer, and specifically the name Yud Kei Vav Kei in the Psalm is connected to the Shemoneh Esrei. Yes, Susan.
How many, I have 2 questions. The number 18, that sounds very familiar. That's something very important about the number 18. And also, how many different names are in the Torah for Hashem?
So the Gemara in Shavuos, the Talmud, mentions that there's 7 names that are not erasable, that we don't erase. And that meaning there are other descriptions of Hashem, but the actual names of Hashem, there's 7. And the main one is called the Yud Kei Vav Kei. That's the Shem Ha'etzem, the main name of Hashem.
Can you say that again, please?
Yeah, there are 7 names of Hashem, and
okay.
The names of Hashem correspond. They symbolize certain aspects of Hashem's relationship with the world, and so each one is specifically connected to a certain type of benevolence that God gives with the world. Like, for example, in Kabbalah, it says Shem Kel B'Chesed. The name Kel is connected to kindness. And Elokim is Gevura, is strength, severity. And but the name Yud Kei Vav Kei is considered the Shem Ha'etzem, the main name of Hashem. And it's connected to mercifulness and compassion. And so that's the that's the connection here between
Okay.
the Psalm.
And number 18 is, there's something about that, what that in Hebrew.
Right. Well, that's just everything goes by numerical values, and the word, if you want life means is.
That's what I couldn't
Hebrew is
remember.
chai.
Right.
So a lot of times people give tzedakah. They like to give in 180, 1800, 18,000, 18.
Thank you.
Whatever people like to give in that numerical value. And in shuls, that's very beneficial, because instead of doing bidding, people bid $100 or $50, they do in the 100 times chai. So instead of it being like 100, it's 1800 already. So it actually benefits the shuls a lot to use the 18 number. And,
right. Okay. Thank you.
Numbers. But that's not exactly connected to the Shemona Esrei. I mean, at least that's not on the simple level, the reason why there are 18 brachas. Okay.
Rabbi, wasn't it mentioned that 18 ribs or something?
Yeah, that's the next thing. Thing.
Okay.
So the next piece of Gemara, the next opinion in the Gemara says it has to do with.
Rabbi?
Yeah, but Phyllis, your
I'm
sound
sorry.
is awful. Yes.
I just wanted to say in connection
No.
to
Do me a favor.
what Susan said, that the 18 tet represents life. It's actually the meaning is life, and that's why it's emphasized in that manner.
Okay, now what did that add to what we said?
She asked about the meaning, the significance
Right,
of
and we said
the
that it
number
means life.
18, and
Right,
that's
so
the
we-
numerical value of life.
Right, we said it means life. So what did you add?
Well, forgive me, Rabbi, but that's not what I heard.
Oh, you didn't hear us say that? Okay, fine. I'm just wondering. Okay, fine. Very good. I was just trying to know what you were saying. Okay.
I just also wanted to ask if you're going to mention the second abridgment.
When we get to the Gemara, see, Rashi doesn't even tell us what it is.
Oh, I see.
No one tells us. They just say it's explained in the Gemara. I gave a little sneak preview to those that couldn't control themselves, but those that didn't merit that are going to have to wait. It's meant you're supposed to be in suspense a little, so we're going to let you stay in suspense. We're going to have it. It's in the Gemara, but Rashi keeps everyone in suspense. I sort of broke the rules before, so I don't want to break them a second time.
Oh, I see.
Okay, so it's basically an abridged version. I also don't want people to get the idea that they can use this abridged version option. So I don't want to overly emphasize it. This is not the halacha. Do not think that you can, if I tell it to you, you're going to be able to use it.
Oh, no.
It's not acceptable. Okay, so the Gemara told us one reason was the Psalm Mizmor LeDavid Havel Hashem B'nei Elim, and the next opinion. So that opinion was Reb Hillel, Berei Reb Shmuel, Bar Nachmani. The next opinion is Reb Yosef. He says it corresponds to the 18 times it says Hashem's name in Kriyat Shema. Now, I didn't see any commentaries that discuss this, but it just seems to me, it's interesting because when we talk about the Kriyat Shema connection, we mention that it's connected to all the names of Hashem, Elokeichem, Elokim, Hashem, Yud Kei Vav Kei, all the names of Hashem. So this opinion it's referring to the Shema, and it basically connects to for example, the first three is Hashem, Elokeinu, and Hashem Echad. So that's three. Then you have the next two is Hashem, V'ahavta Hashem Elokecha. Hashem and Elokecha is the next two. Then you have Liyahavas Hashem Elokeichem. So we're not specifically using the name Yud Kei Vav Kei here. Here we're jumping to any name of Hashem in the Shema. So what it seems like is that the emphasis here is, I guess, the acceptance of the yoke of heaven and the yoke of the mitzvahs and the foundation of our faith. In other words, they connected it. In other words, the first opinion was it was more connected to mercifulness, asking God for mercy and compassion. This opinion, it seems that they're emphasizing the idea is the emphasis is on the theology and the acceptance of the main elements of our faith, and that's why they made it 18 in connection to the name of Hashem, but it doesn't specifically connect with the mercifulness and compassion. It's connecting to all the names of Hashem, and so it connects to the Shema, and then or another thought. Another thought that comes to mind is, well, no, I guess that's, we'll leave it at that. That's just a thought. I didn't see it anywhere, so I don't want to say it's the correct meaning, but it's just a thought of what the connection is, the Shema. Okay, and then the third opinion was that you need that Reb Tanchum, Rabbi Shua ben Levi says it connects to the 18 vertebrae in the spine, and that's also very interesting. What is that? How does that connect? Well, what are we trying to show with that? What is the emphasis here of the spine and the Shemona Esrei? So the Pnei Yeshua over here says an interesting, I would say it's like a Hasidic interpretation. He says that all the other limbs are connected to certain mitzvahs. They have the mitzvahs with each of the limbs. He says, but the spine, what mitzvahs the spine can? I know your arm, you do tefillin. Your mouth, you say words of Torah, and your ears, you listen to Torah. You listen to all the mitzvahs. There are certain things that you can, the limbs that you fulfill mitzvahs with. But what about the spine? So the idea is that they established, corresponding to the spine, 18 brachas in order that you'll realize that all of our limbs are supposed to serve Hashem. Kol atzmoisai toimarno. All the limbs should say praise to Hashem, and therefore they established the 18 brachas that the spine, even the lowest of the limbs, should connect to Hashem with Kol Atzmaisai Toimarno. And as we'll see, you're also supposed to bend. When you bend, you're bending in connection to the elevating those, connecting those limbs with Hashem. So it's the Shemona Esrei is sort of bringing out this idea of connecting even the limbs that are, it seems so physical to Hashem. Yes, Robert.
I mean, for me, I mean, this is a really, in some ways, a wonderful excerpt, because what it's saying is when we bend physically, we're implementing or whatever, engaging our spine to the total of our body relative to our relationship to Hashem, and are subordinating ourselves to God. So to me, that's a very important statement.
Yes. Yeah, well said, well said. And it actually connects to this week's Parsha, because one of the things we learned in this week's Parsha is that they would give the Bikurim, the first fruits, and it says the wealthy people would give the gold and silver, bring the gold and silver baskets to the Kohen with the first fruits, and they would give them back their gold and silver baskets. But the poor people would give wicker baskets, and that the Kohen would keep. That would stay by, the Kohen would keep it. And the idea is that the service, one of the concepts is that the gold and silver is like a proper way to serve Hashem. The lowest level, like the wicker, that's like so foreign. So even that, or specifically that, is the lowest level needs to be connected to Hashem as well, and therefore that would be part of the holiness of the Bikurim. It would be connected to the elevating it as part of the first fruits. So even the here you have the idea of bringing the lowest level and elevating it to holiness, to a level of holiness. And so the same thing is what we're learning here is the connecting the level that doesn't seem to be a major part of the spiritual side of the body, and yet we're connecting it to Hashem. Yes, Robert.
Again, this to me talks about the democratization of Judaism, that there's no hierarchy. We are all equal, irrespective of our means, and being accepted and being part of this extended. And we did that, I remember, with the creation of the temple, when people gave what piece they could, and that it was accepted without any, being, first among equals. Everybody's
Right.
the same. So to me, that's a wonderful statement as well.
Right. The Talmud makes a little joke about this. It says the poor people get poorer because when they give their
Right, they
wicker
give
basket,
much more.
they
in
actually don't get
proportion
it back.
Exactly.
They don't get it back. The rich people, they get their basket back. But spiritually, what it means is really it's a great thing that that their gift is sort of like accepted. It's wanted. It's precious. It's precious to Hashem. Okay, so the Gemara continues, and it says that Tanchum. Actually, let's just start there. We're 6 lines up from the bottom of the page. Tanchum says we're 28b. 28b, 6 lines up from the bottom of the page. Tanchum says, in the name of Rabbi Shua ben Levi, I'm a spalo. The person who davens, he has to bow until all the vertebrae in his spine are like sticking out, until they're visible, the knots of them. And Ula Amarat Kadesh Yer Isser connected Libai. Ula says that you should be able to see your an Isser opposite your heart, which means a certain coin. The size of that coin would be in between the 2 folds. You would have the size of that. In other words, your stomach is going to create folds. That's how far you should bow down. There is another explanation. Isser connected Libai. It means that you bow your head down and you see on the floor the coin. That you'll bow your head down close enough that you could see your head. You see a coin opposite your heart, meaning somewhere nearby on the floor. That's the another interpretation brought in the Rashba, such a explanation that it means that you should bow to that extent, which means that you bow more than, it's not just a little bow. It's more of a bow. At the same time, I should mention that it's brought in the Yerushalmi not to bow too much, because it looks like that you are showing off, and so therefore bowing too much is also not acceptable. In fact, it's brought in the Shulchan Aruch in chapter 113 about not bowing too much. That your mouth would be opposite your belt, because you're bowing too much. So there is, there is a limit. Also, don't go overboard. We also know that you're not supposed to bow and your head is up, but your body is bowing, but your head is sticking up, because that's also not considered. That's not bowing. It says it's supposed to be agmoin. Agmoin is like a rod, or supposed to be down. Your head should be down. And okay, so the Gemara continues, and it says, Rabbi Chanina Amar, Rabbi Chanina said, Rabbi Chanina is more lenient. He says, you bend your head a little, it's good enough. And Amar Rabba says that Rabba makes a sort of like a intermediate view. He says, this is if it's painful for him, then it looks like that he's bowing. That's good enough. So in other words, if the person is maybe sick or or he's older and it's hard for him to bend, so he makes it look like it's it's visible. He makes it look like he wants to bow. That's what he does. He bows a little, but people will see that he's older or he doesn't look so well. So that would be good enough. Okay, so then the Gemara says, Hani Tmani 3, this 18, Chasrei Havion, it's really 19, right? There's really 19 brachas of Shemana Esrei. So why do we keep saying there's 18? Amar Reb Levi says, Brachas HaTzedukim, b'Yavne Tiknua. They establish in Yavne the blessing against the Tzedukim, against those that consider they only follow Torah Shebachsav, the written Torah. So who did they establish it? So Keneged Mi Tiknua, who did they establish it to? Why did they establish it? What did it correspond to? Which means that every part, and this is a continuation of what I mentioned earlier, that what does the Gemara mean? Who did they establish it corresponding to? What does that mean? Who did they establish it corresponding to? And what did the Gemara mean before? What do these blessings correspond to? What it means is that everything had a deeper meaning. The Shemona Esrei that we read, we think it's the rabbis just said, oh, there's about 18 things that people need. Okay, well, it's not true. It's not just because there are 18 things that we need, or 12 things that we need, therefore they made 12 middle blessings of the Shemona Esrei. There's specific, deeper meaning in Kabbalistic terms of what that there has to be something that these things correspond to. So Reb Levi, Reb Hillel, Berei Reb Shmuel Bar Nachmani, Keneged Kela Koved Hirim, that if you go back to the 18 brachas, what did they correspond to? This is going to add on one more point. So there's another time where it says in that psalm, it says Hashem's name and it says Kel. So because of that Kel, they said we can add on another bracha of Shemana Esrei, meaning they needed to add another bracha, but they needed to fit it with the meaning that it corresponded to, with the other 18 corresponded to. So he says it corresponds to the name of Hashem Kel in that Psalm 29. Rabbi Yosef Keneged Echad Shebekriya Shema. It says Echad, Hashem Echad. So the word Echad, they corresponded that was what it corresponded to. It corresponds to the small vertebrae of the Shedra, small rib. And which rib is that? So I saw one of the commentaries mentions that's called the luz bone. The luz bone is the bone that never can be destroyed. Different opinions where that is. I don't know. I always was told it was somewhere by the neck. So I guess it's this bone would be somewhere in the upper part of the spine. But anyway, whatever it is, the luz bone is the bone that can't be crushed. It's what the Hashem is going to resurrect the dead from that bone, and that bone is going to be that bone is the one that they corresponded it to. It's not a full bone, it's only a small one, and therefore it wasn't included in the others, and that was in Yavne they added it. Should we go another few minutes? Is anyone against another 5 minutes? Is that okay? Can we go another 5 minutes? Okay. Yeah. Okay. So let's continue. I'm sorry to take up. I want to just turn the page. Tana Rabbanan, the rabbis learned Shimon HaPekuli Histir Yudches Brachas of Rabbi Gamliel. Yeah.
Rabbi,
yes.
I just want to say that there's some versions like the Steinsaltz. It doesn't say it's Sedukim. It says Minim. Heretics.
Oh, really?
Minim.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
He doesn't say Sedukim at all.
Uh-huh.
So I don't know which is the original.
Right. Well, the Gemara that's printed, the famous Vilna Shas says, Tzedukim, but that is interesting that it's that he switches it. There must be other sources. Okay.
What is the other term?
The minim, the min, which are like apikorsim, those that are against Torah and so on.
Heretics.
I mean, Tzedukim is also, you could translate, I guess. Well, maybe not. Well, I don't know what literally the word heretic would mean. What does heretic actually mean? Someone who rebels against the
I think it means denies God.
denies God. The word heretic.
I think so.
Oh, I see. So in other words, Tzedukim, they sort of believe in Hashem, so you couldn't use that word to translate Tzedukim. Okay, all right.
It says a person believing or practicing religious heresy.
I guess we got to translate heresy.
Yeah, well, anyway.
Look up heresy.
Okay,
But,
I'll do that. Thanks.
But yeah, so if that's right, then I guess you're right. Tzedukim you can't translate it as heretics if that's correct, Yehuda.
I believe it's a non-believer.
Non-believer, right?
But heresy is belief of opinion contrary to orthodox religious doctrine.
Well, then you could say a Tzeduki falls within that category then, because they are going against Orthodox belief. They're just not going against Hashem fully. They're going against our understanding of Hashem. But in any event,
the Tzedukim could be just one subset, one subgroup, whereas the heretics are more of a broader group that includes other types of heretics besides Tzedukim.
Oh, for sure. I'm just wondering if it would be wrong to translate Tzeduki heretic.
Are they doubters? Is that a better definition? Is that
No,
they're
Rabbi,
not heretics, but they're doubters? They're questioners.
There's another definition, which is opinion profoundly at odds with what is generally accepted.
Well, that would also be, I guess, Tzeduki could be translated as. I think it sounds like it's okay to translate Tzeduki as a heretic as well. So you're right, David, that it's very inclusive. The word, it's very broad. Okay, so in any event, the Gemara continues and it says, Tana Rabbanan, the rabbis learned. We're 2 lines up from the bottom of the page. Tana Rabbanan, the rabbis learned. Shimon HaPekuli, history Yudchas Brachas Lefnei Rabban Gamliel. Shimon HaPekuli, he organized these 18 brachas before Rabban Gamliel al Haseder b'Yavne, in the order in Yavne. And Amar lahem Rabban Gamliel. So what happened was that it seems like they forgot the order, even though they were established by the Anshe Knesset Hagdola, but the man of the Great Assembly established them. But it seems like the order was forgotten. And Shimon HaPekuli, which Pekuli means he sold cotton, and he was a cotton merchant, and therefore he established them. He explained to Rabbi Gamliel what the correct order was. Rabbi Gamliel, the Chachamim, Rabbi Gamliel told the Chachamim, is there any person who could establish the blessing of the Tzedukim? Amad Shmuel HaKatan v'tikna. Shmuel HaKatan got up and he established it. In other words, he wrote it. Now, what was the big deal? What's the big deal to write the blessing? It's such a hard thing to there's so many editors, I'm sure, of the rabbis. I'm sure many of them had a good could write things very easily. Why couldn't they just all write it? Seems like they is there anyone that could do it? And then Shmuel HaKatan, he got up and he did it. And so I saw an interesting explanation that I heard this years ago, that Shmuel HaKatan, Shmuel is the one who said, "B'nafol oivecha al tismach." When your enemy fails, when your enemy falls, don't be happy. And so they needed someone who would be establishing this, who would not be. They wanted to establish it without the feeling of we're right and they're wrong, and that's why we're establishing it. And so Shmuel, who had emphasized this teaching that you're not angry, you're not happy when your friend falls. He's the type of person that can write this without a feeling of bias. They needed someone who was going to write it without a biased feeling. And he's the right person because his writing of it, his establishing the words of this prayer will be an unbiased writing because he is the one who promoted this idea of not being happy when your friend falls. And so therefore, Shmuel HaKatan was the one who wrote the Brachas HaTzedukim. The thing is, Lashana Achera Shakcha, another year he forgot it. A different year passed. At some point later he forgot it. V'hishkif ba shtayim v'shalish shois, and he tried to remember it for 2 or 3 hours. And Balei Halul, and so again he was the Chazan, and he was repeating the Shemona Esrei, and he forgot the bracha. And they didn't take him off. Amai loy halu. Why didn't they get rid of him? They should have got rid of him and said, let's get another person to take over being the chazan, being the cantor. Rabbi Yehuda Marav says that if a person makes a mistake, you don't get rid of him. You wait till he corrects it. But Brachas HaTzedukim, if a person makes a mistake with the Tzedukim blessing, we get rid of him. We have to be worried. Maybe he changed his opinion, and that's why he's making a mistake here, because maybe in his mind he really follows this view. Interesting here, David. It says the word min. We're afraid maybe he became a min. So Shani Shmuel HaKatan is different. The Gemara says the iyu tikna, that he's the one who established it in the first place. We're not afraid that he's gonna change his views. Why shouldn't we be worried that maybe he might change? We have a rule that a person who's good doesn't change for the bad. No. It says that a person could return. Tzaddik might change from his righteousness and he'll do evil. That's when he started out evil. Then he might become evil later. But if he started out a tzaddik, he's not going to. Tzaddik may karoi loy. So the Gemara asks, "V'loy? It's not so. A tzaddik from the beginning never becomes evil. If he starts out as a tzaddik, then he never could fail. Only someone who once was evil, then he became a tzaddik. He could turn back. But a person who starts out as a tzaddik, he doesn't never will become vatnan al tamin ba'atzmacha ad yom moischa. Don't believe in yourself until the day of your death. You never know. You might turn. You might change. So the Shara Yechanan Kohen Gadol. We know Yechanan Kohen Gadol. Shemesh B'Kuna Gedayla Shmeinim Shana. He was a Kohen Gadol for 80 years. V'Leb Seif Nasa Tzeduki. In the end, he turned into Tzeduki. So someone who's righteous might turn into a Tzeduki. So we're basically questioning, how did Shmuel they not kick him off from being the Chazan? Amar Abaye hu Yanai hu Yechanan. Abaye says that Yochanan Kohen Gadol was really Yanai, King Yanai, who was wicked, and he became righteous, and then he made have turned back wicked. So that's one answer, that a person who was righteous in the beginning never will turn evil. A person who was once evil in the beginning of their life, they might turn back evil. Rava says no. Yanai l'chud v'Yochanan l'chud. Yanai Rasha mei kara, Yochanan Tzaddik mei kara. So the question is, if Yanai and Yochanan are two separate people, Rava says, so how did Yochanan turn bad after 80 years of being Kohen Gadol? He changed and he became a wicked person. He became a Tzeduki. And so the Gemara says, Hanichol Abaye, this fits with the answer. We have an answer according to Abaye that Yochanan Kohen Gadol changed because he was once wicked. And therefore, he might have turned wicked later. Elul Rava Kasha, Rava's Kasha, Amalach Rava Tzaddik mei karoi nami dilma hadar bey. A tzaddik from the beginning he might change. So why did they get rid of Shmuel when maybe he became a min? Shani Shmuel HaKatan da'askel ba. There's a difference if you start reciting the bracha of the minim or if you skip it. If you start saying it, we know that you mean to speak negative about the minim, about those the wicked people, the heretics. Rav Yehuda says in the name of Rav, some say Rav Yehuda we didn't say that you got to get rid of someone who's the cantor only if he didn't start the bracha. But if he started the bracha, then we wait till he finishes until he corrects himself. And the reason why he made a mistake, it seems like, is because it could be in the beginning only the Chazan used to say this bracha, and maybe this Shmuel HaKatan wasn't the Chazan. So when they established it initially, he wasn't used to saying it. He wrote it, he composed it, but he wasn't used to saying, because it could be that was only the Chazan said it. Another pshat is maybe he used to not daven every day because he was Torah Yom Nosei. Maybe he learned Torah all day and all night. And therefore, he didn't say it. Okay, I want to wish you all a very good Shabbos, and sorry for taking up your time.
Not at all.
Rabbi.
Great. Thank you. Shabbat shalom,
Thank you,
everyone.
Rabbi.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Shabbat shalom.
Thank
Shabbat
you.
shalom.
Shabbat shalom לכולם.